Welcome everyone to Nashville.
Misty sunrise in my hometown, rows of cotton about me.
Welcome everyone to the Franklin American Mortgage Music City Bowl, the 14th edition of this game. Wake Forest with the ball on 3rd down and long, taking on Mississippi State. And here's the call from the official.
False start. Offense, number 18. 5-yard penalty. Remains. 3rd down.
If you're just joining us, Mississippi State had a good kickoff return to begin the game, but it was 3 and out for Dan Mullen teams shortly thereafter, unable to move the ball. And after the punt, Wake Forest taking over on its own 20-yard line, and right now looking at 3rd down and 14. Tanner Price, the quarterback, working out of the shotgun. Price, Gibbons off his hands, and a catchable pass goes awry, and it's 4th down coming up.
Good protection by this offensive line. And Gibbons was able to get open late. He's going to come all the way across the field. Mississippi State playing zone, and they just let him run free. And that's a catch that Gibbons needs to make, and that's exactly what they're trying to set up with him. Get him lost in the wash and see if you can't sneak him out the backside. They got it that time, but had a drop.
Alex Wolfick punting from his own 2-yard line, low snap, and he fields it cleanly and gets off a pretty good punt. But it's a line drive back at the 35 to Bumpus. And Bumpus with a 10-yard punt return after the 49-yard punt. Ralph and Ballard, the key cogs offensively for the Bulldog Nation, with another opportunity when we come back to Nashville. And welcome back, everyone, to the Franklin American Mortgage Music City Bowl. HP Field in Nashville. Battle between the ACC and the SEC, the 14th edition of this game. Mississippi State taking on Wake Forest. I'm Mark Jones alongside Ed Cunningham. Samantha Steele down on the field joining us shortly. Ed, when it comes to bowl games, it's often about which team is more motivated. Which of these two teams seems to be more motivated coming in?
You know, to me, it's a coin toss, excuse me, because both teams are 6-6. And for Jim Grove to get to a winning record, Dan Mullen to get to a winning record, I think both of these programs very focused because they're sitting at 500. And I think that, to me, it's dead even. I think you look at a game like tonight in the Insight Bowl with Oklahoma and Iowa, I would say Iowa is probably leaning in the area of the more motivated. But this one, I'm not sure which one it is.
Both teams so far with a couple of 3 and outs as we go downstairs to Samantha Steele. What's up?
Yeah, guys, couple injury reports. Bud Noel, freshman corner, you see him out there. He did twist his ankle. He's able to play, but pay attention to his ability to make cuts in the secondary. And then the big loss is the Mike linebacker position. Mike Olson sprained his ankle in practice on Wednesday. He is out. His backup is junior Scott Bistros. And then, of course, the backup quarterback for Mississippi State, Tyler Russell, sprained his MCL on December 15th. I watched him in warm-ups. He is available to play. He could even take that follow-through step on his throw. He should be good to go.
Right, health always an issue as you get closer to bowl games and into them. That pass incomplete, intended for Chris Smith. Well, let's take a look at our impact players brought to you by Chick-fil-A.
Ballard, a guy who they've been relying on for the last 2 years, will not change tonight. He'll be the guy who'll get the bulk of the carries, but the fastest guy on the team, Ladarius Perkins, had a huge game in the last ball game against Ole Miss. He will get into the mix as well. And for Wake Forest, Nikita Whitlock, a 260-pound nose guard who is as quick as any defensive lineman in the country. A big concern for Mississippi State, who's been playing in the SEC.
Ralph completed 60% of his passes on the season. 9 touchdowns, characterized as a pretty good runner, a great runner. Still a little bit of a work in progress in the passing game.
That's something when Dan Mullen and his staff got here, they had to work. The first time they saw Ralph in practice, they said he was just struggling completing the ball against air, but they'll get him involved in the run game.
This is Perkins, who put it on the ground, fumbled it, and Wake Forest comes up with the ball. Kenny Okoro coming up with the loose ball. And Wake Forest will be working with a pretty short field on 1st and 10.
Now this looks more like, and that's Bistros there who stripped the ball out, who's, as Samantha just reported, starting in place of Mike Olson. But that's not much of a hit. Both of these teams, this feels like a first game of the season more than the last game of the season. But both of these offenses not looking very smooth so far.
1st and 10, and you hear the chorus of cowbells from the Bulldog Nation that have made the trip here to Nashville. Price on the toss. Pendergrass is going to be brought down right near or maybe a yard behind the line of scrimmage by Matthew Wells. Take a look at our impact players. Brought to you by Chick-fil-A.
Orville Reynolds, a young man, the fastest guy Jim Grobe has said they have ever had in their program. Not big numbers because he didn't start playing until late in the year. Chris Givens, of course, we have already seen how much they want to use him. Led the conference with 106 yards receiving. And for Mississippi State, Jonathan Banks, a young man who started his career as a safety, now a lockdown corner, good size at 6'2", can turn and run and make big plays as well.
Pass complete to Givens, and Givens swarmed immediately. At about the 36-yard line, Matthew Wells in on another tackle for the Bulldogs. 3rd and long coming up.
And so far, Chris Wilson, the defensive coordinator, co-defensive coordinator with Jeff Collins at Mississippi State and their staff, have the Bulldogs ready for the wide receiver screen game. You can see the physical nature of their secondary when they're being blocked by wide receivers. They're fighting off those blocks very well. So good preparation by Wilson and his staff.
3rd and 12. Price with all kinds of time has a man on the post and incomplete. He overshoots Dembry on the play, and he had him open, and he knows it. Danny Dembry.
Dembry looked a little surprised that that ball was coming his way. He'd kind of gotten into a little bit of a stride, not quite going full speed. Sometimes on the post, you don't quite run at full speed, so you have another gear to run through the ball, but just came off the gas pedal a little too much, I think, was the reason there was an overthrow there by Price. I didn't mind it when they sent out their offense before, but I wouldn't, if I was Mississippi State, I'd be worried about a potential fake here.
Rugby-style punt. It careens all the way into the end zone, so there's the 13 yards that you gain. That was a quick net. And Ralph running nicely for the first down of the ball game for both teams. An 18-yard gain for Chris Welch.
And Ralph at 240 pounds is going to keep that the whole way. And this is an offensive line that had its struggles, had some injuries, graduated 3 guys off of the front last year. They've been bouncing guys around. 15 practices the coaches were hoping would help them out.
This is Ballard on the run, and he put it on the ground. Again, another fumble and another recovery by Wake Forest. Nikita Whitlock scoops up this one. So both tailbacks, Ballard and Perkins, have fumbled for Mississippi State. Much to the ire of the coaching staff.
It's an outside run, zone read, handed off to Ballard. And an excellent job pulling that ball out.
Looked like Justin Jackson.
Yeah, it was Justin Jackson. As he was going down, you could see he had his hand in there. And sometimes, even if you have that ball locked away, if you get your hand between the body and the ball, which is what it looked like Jackson had, when you're falling down, he did a nice job of yanking that ball out.
Price complete, and a big hit immediately on the play by Broomfield. Nice catch, though. Campanaro able to hang on.
And Broomfield, a guy that the coaches talk about. You know, one thing for corners is sometimes they can be lulled to sleep if the offense is not going to their side. But when we were talking to Chris Wilson about his personnel, he said this guy just stays so focused. He never takes a play off. And good break on the ball that time on the short throw to Campanaro.
2nd and 5, Campanaro in motion. Handed off, Pendergrass accelerates over the right side. And a nice run for another first down for Wake Forest. Doug Weaver with a good block on that right side, Ed.
This offensive line for Wake Forest is coached by Steve Lobotsky, who's also the offensive coordinator. That is great push. There are two guys in the middle of this defensive line, Fletcher Cox and Josh Boyd, who have NFL futures in front of them. And that was excellent push at the point of attack.
Campanaro split to the bottom of your screen. Pendergrass again bouncing it outside now and brought down at about the 25-yard line by Fletcher Cox. Ed, we've talked about the size matchup, offense against defense, Mississippi State against Wake. What about the other side? Is there any discernible difference?
I think if you had to say who had a if you had to pick the side you think that would dominate, it would be Mississippi State. There, Cox lined up as a defensive end. Great change of direction, runs upfield, comes back. He's looking like, if he comes out, a potential first-rounder in April's draft.
Bootleg action. Price throws a dart complete for Campanaro again, just inside the 15-yard line. He was working against Charles Mitchell, and another first down on an 11-yard gain.
Campanaro having himself a really nice season. Of course, the big numbers guy is Chris Givens, but coming into this game, Campanaro with 63 catches. Nice throw, accurate. You can see them working a little bit of a high-low there with Givens, and it's good protection by the offensive line that is allowing Price to wait to come to that second option.
Price on the fade into the end zone, and good coverage that time by Corey Broomfield, who was working on Campanaro. You know, you speak to some of these Wake Forest players, and you get the sense that they're a little bit tired about hearing about the SEC supremacy and the athletic ability and the talents of some of their linemen and DBs. And they say, hey, you know, we play against guys at Virginia Tech and North Carolina that are pretty good too.
And Clemson, you know, and a lot of people thought when Wake Forest went to Clemson with the Atlantic coast, the Atlantic division opening the ACC, they were going to get blown out. A couple missed field goals, and then they won it.
Pendergast, touchdown! The ACC strikes first. All set up by the fumble by Vic Ballard. And unlike last time, this time, Wake Forest able to capitalize and score on Pendergrass's 9th rushing touchdown of the season, the 17th of his career. And the Demon Deacons leading with 4:24 to go in the first quarter.
Right now, the offensive line for Wake Forest. Watch the center, Garrick Williams. He's doing a reach block on the defensive tackle, Dwayne Charrington, and he just completely hooks him and stops the flow to that play. It cuts off the linebacker has to run up and meet the guard, but because the center gets a cutoff block on a defensive tackle who's lined up to the outside, linebacker has too big a hole to fill. Good run, but right now this offensive line winning the battle, and I think again coming into this game.
You know, we were talking about Jim Grove coming out of the last commercial. Lean years in the last 2 seasons, 3-9, followed by a 5-7, and then this year a 6-6. But he really feels like, despite the limp to the finish line, losing 4 of their last 6, that they squeezed every bit of ounce of talent out of his players and his staff this year.
And you had mentioned down the stretch, they just felt like they were leaking oil all over the place, and that week off, they gave him almost 10 days off after the season. Most people start a bowl practice sometime in that first week just to keep guys in the motion, but he felt like, I have just got to give these guys a break. They're mentally and physically exhausted from this season.
On the return, Lewis, who had a good return last time. Somebody got a handful of shirt. Didn't know they were still wearing tearaway jerseys. Lewis brought down to the 32. With possession the last couple of times, they fumbled the ball. And Ballard tied up right at the line of scrimmage. That's the bad news. Good news is he hung on to it. Ed, this guy literally got ripped.
Does he get his undershirt? Yeah, that's I couldn't see it before, but I thought, you know, is that his undershirt that got yanked? Yeah. The problem is that cotton stretches a lot more than the jersey. If he'd have gotten a hold of the jersey, maybe he would have made the tackle.
Here's Ralph. Ralph took a hit, falls forward to the 39, picks up about up for Mississippi State. Haven't been able to throw the ball a whole lot yet.
Yeah, maybe a screen, a delayed screen. Perhaps they very good option team. This is an option down and distance, which is one of the things that Jim Grove was very worried about because of the size mismatch you were talking about. He said, you know, they run that option and they put you on their heels, and let's see what Les Pinning, the offensive coordinator, dials up.
They run it, get the first down, and then some. Ballard with scoring intentions. Touchdown, Bulldogs. Vic Ballard knows how to make people forget about fumbles. He runs 60 yards to pay dirt. That's his 9th rushing touchdown of the season. And the 28th of his career, and in a blink, we're tied at 7.
Well, sometimes when you move that defensive front, you move yourself right out of the way. That time, Ehrman came to the inside, and the linebackers got caught up in the wash. No safety home to make the tackle.
Well, Vic Ballard had a fumble, which led to a score for Wake Forest, and he atoned for it a moment ago with that 60-yard sprint into the end zone. A guy out of junior college, didn't have a lot of offers, didn't have any offers coming out of high school, and it was recruited by Mississippi State. Vic Penning, the offensive coordinator, recruited him, and you know, sometimes there are players at junior colleges that have some kind of legacy, positive, negative, or otherwise, and they wondered what his story was. Well, he didn't have one. And he's proven to be a productive player. On the kickoff, good coverage by the Bulldogs. Shotgun, this time Price looking to pass. Great move by Pendergrass. And he gets another first down. So running the ball, catching the ball, Brandon Pendergrass showing an array of skills.
And Pendergrass is a guy who, from about the midpoint of the season on, was really the only running back that Wake Forest had until they took the red shirt off of Orville Reynolds. But the last 5 games, this guy averaged almost 100 yards rushing per game. So having a nice end to his career at Wake Forest.
On the reverse, this is Gibbons. Not a good thing when you got the quarterback out in front blocking for you sometimes. A 1-yard gain on the play.
Tanner Price was not interested in throwing a block. If you're not going to block number 10, just get out of the way. Gibbons was kind of waiting for him. And it was a tough read because the receivers were doing a pretty good job over there, but Price has just got to go. Not quite sure what to do.
How would you grade him out on that block?
That's a minus.
A minus?
Yeah, that's a minus. Grades are given out. Plus or minus. That's a minus.
2nd and 10. Little blitz coming. Price steps up, and wide open is Campanero. And another first down at the 33-yard line. So with the heat coming, they pick up 18. And Tanner Price has been a monument of poise in that pocket.
Pretty good job on blitz pickup. As that blitz came through, it looked like Brandon Wilson was going to run through, and Tanner Price does a really good job of stepping up. You know, a lot of young quarterbacks, when there's pressure, they like to bounce outside, but a lot of times the money is to be made stepping up into the pocket, and Price did a good job. Campanero left completely free. Again, because of the extra time, the secondary struggling a little bit.
Pendergrass on the handoff, tries to get to the edge. Got a good block from Gibbons and is brought down at about the 25-yard line.
You know, I go back to earlier in the season when we were getting ready, as Pendergrass needs to come out of the game. You can't blame him. He's doing everything. But we watched this defense against South Carolina on film. This is not the same group I saw at midseason for Mississippi State.
Right now, the Demon Deacons moving the ball pretty well. And a couple of turnovers have cost the Bulldogs. Back with more in the second quarter after this. Under the lights at LP Field. It's the 14th edition of the Franklin American Mortgage Music City Bowl, tied at 7. Here at the start of the second quarter, Mark Jones alongside Ed Cunningham, Samantha Steele down in the field. Orville Reynolds now in the backfield for Wake Forest, looking at 2nd down and 2. And he gets the handoff and a lot more. Inside the 20, has the first down. And Reynolds is one of the fastest guys in the backfield for Wake Forest. He picks up 6.
And as he was going through that line of scrimmage, it looked like he might pop it. But his falling defensive lineman got a hold of his shoestrings. But this is a guy that Jim Grove, when we talked to him earlier in the week, they wanted to get him more involved. They pulled his red shirt. He said, I don't want to make that a waste. A little more ball practice. See if we can't get him involved in a few different plays.
First down and 10. Price keeps it himself on some good ball handling. Pretty slick move and picks up about 7 on the play. They continue to get good chunks of yardage.
And nobody home off the play fake. You're not expecting Price. Not much of a runner. More of the thrower. Last year when they had Ted Stakaitis starting, it was more of a quarterback run offense. But when Price came in, they had to retool a little bit. More of a passer than a runner, but a good ball fake nonetheless.
Hands it off to Pendergrass, and he won't be able to turn the corner at all. Pushed out of bounds at about the 15. Deontay Skinner was there. And back to Price. He's played in so many different offenses, this time handing it off.
And there is Skinner again. Again, the coach is pointing out, just a sophomore. Couple of extra bowl practices. He's got good instincts. He can take on the run like you saw there. He has the ability to go out and cover in the pass. I think he has a very bright future. That was really nice technique with his hands. He used his hands so that the blocker couldn't get a hold of him as he was trying to turn him back inside.
3rd and 6. Price with plenty of time. Steps up and is brought down this time at the 16-yard line. There he is, Fletcher Cox. A big variable in the equation again. A loss of 1 on the play, and it's 4th down coming up. And now you would think, by conventional wisdom, that the place kicker would come in. Jimmy Newman.
And this was all about the coverage down the field. Pretty good protection. Cox had to come off his block as Price ran forward. But that was just a nice job by the secondary. Of course, with that, the end zone right there, you don't have as much vertical stretch. So they did a good job of filling the space.
This one from 33 yards out. Jimmy Newman has it blocked. It got swallowed by Fletcher Cox. And the Bulldogs roar. Fletcher Cox on successive plays comes up big for Mississippi State. First the tackle on 3rd and long, and now the blocked field goal.
Well, you bring in some of your backups on your offensive line, and they certainly did when they brought in Chance Raines at left guard, and Cox just ran right through him. Maybe that's the thing that this defense needs to get a little spark going, because so far it's looked like they have not wanted to be here. Good get off, great pad level. And at that position, when you're playing that left guard, sometimes the best thing to do is just dive for grass.
And they try and hit him quickly. Ralph all the way down to the 31-yard line. A 27-yard pickup. And a couple of plays, boy, the momentum train rolling down the tracks in Mississippi State's favor.
And a pretty big crowd for Mississippi State, starting to get into it a little bit. Looks like that block by Cox may have been the light switch that somebody forgot to turn on before the defense came out. Now the offense trying to take advantage of it.
Ralph looking to pass, given time, and into the end zone, wide open. Touchdown, Clark. Arcito Clark leads the team with 404 receiving yards coming in, and right there notches his 4th touchdown catch of the season. And in 4 plays, starting with the 3rd down tackle, the blocked field goal, and the extra point no good. But in 4 plays, they put 6 points on the board.
Well, defensively, Mississippi State looked like they were sleepwalking through the first half of this game, and Fletcher Cox, a potential first-round pick, blows up the field goal, and this leads to an easy touchdown to Clark.
Kick out of the back of the end zone after leading 7-0. They've fallen behind quickly, 13-7. Mark Jones, Ed Cunningham, Samantha Steele down in the field. Ed, how does Wake Forest get the momentum back here? What's the best way with possession here now?
The problem when you have a change like that, and coaches talk all the time about special teams and turnovers, that was kind of a twofer there. It's almost like a turnover and a huge special teams play. The problem you have, the reason when that momentum changes is you feel like you're behind more than you are. You feel like you've been playing great. All of a sudden you're down 13-7. So keep it exactly the way it's been. They've had the run game going. They've mixed it up with Givens on the screen game, Pendergrass on the swing pass. Just keep doing the same things because you can't make it feel like, oh no, here we go again after a tough end of the season for Wake Forest.
This is Orville Reynolds, the fastest player on the team. Jim Grove saying perhaps the fastest player he's ever coached, brought down by Brandon May. Second down on the gain of about 2 on the play. Wake Forest won 4 of their first 6 games, then lost 4 of their next 6, finishing up at an even 6-6 on the season. But the one thing they point to, the quality win against Florida State earlier this year. Pass complete this time to Danny Dembry. Pick up a 4 on the play. Dembry started as the ex-receiver this year. Did a nice job when Campanero was hurt a little bit earlier, when Campanero was out with his leg injury. Look at his numbers on the season.
Look for some type of misdirection. Mississippi State seeming to get into a little bit more of a groove defensively. Just 3 down linemen, they like to bring pressure out of this look.
Fletcher Cox has that motor running now. Up top. And incomplete, intended for Givens. Kind of threw it out of bounds, actually. Banks on the coverage.
Yeah, one of the things with a young quarterback, only a sophomore, and we saw it earlier on a fade, you just can't into the end zone. You can't throw the ball out of bounds unless you're throwing it away. It's like a putt that comes up short. Those never go in. You've got to keep that ball in play. You've got one of the fastest, most explosive players in the ACC running a go route. You've got to give him a chance to make a play on the ball.
Alex Wolfick with his 4th punt of the night, standing at his own 21-yard line. Chad Bumpus standing at his own 25 from Mississippi State. Wolfick gets off a great spiral all the way back to the 15. Bumpus still on his feet. What a move. And run out of bounds at the 29-yard line, a 49-yard punt. 14 on the return. Justin on the tackle. Us back on the other side. Mississippi State leading 13-7 with 10:32 to go in the first half. Let's go downstairs to Samantha.
Guys, you've been talking about nose guard Nikita Whitlock all day and how impressive it is what he's been able to do despite his size. He's listed as 5'11", but it actually looks like he's more like 5'8". I know that because I almost see eye to eye with the guy. He can actually drop back into pass coverage. They can do so much with him because he's so fast and he gets such good leverage. He's giving hope to all the little people of the world like me, guys.
Yeah, well, Sam, he's the little guy that could, that's for sure. 5A player of the year, all ACC this year. A nice tackle that time by Okoro on Perkins, who picked up 5 on the play. Yeah, back to Whitlock. Interesting story. Key player up front for them and wants to be a Navy SEAL. If he's not playing football at the next level. Getting some trench warfare experience against this big offensive line for Mississippi State as Perkins picks up a first down for the Bulldogs.
And this a 3rd and short for Les Kenning, the offensive coordinator, quarterback's coach for Dan Mullen. pardon me, picked up the first down. It looked at me like it was just a touch short. I was going to say this is a chance where maybe you fake the run last year in the bowl game against Michigan, which was a blowout for Mississippi State. They were able to take some shots because the run game got going, and that was what Kenning was hoping they could get going today.
Ralph is going to keep it, and it's a good decision. Down to the 38-yard line. A 13-yard gain, and they are finding some gaps in that front of Wake Forest.
That's the battle that Kenning and his offensive staff were worried about, is how they were going to take care of the movement of Nikita Whitlock. That time he went towards the play, but a nice job by Day and the right guard Salisbury to push him out of the way.
Nice move by Perkins, but he spun back into a couple of tacklers. One of them, Noel.
And Noel, a young man who came in and from day one as a true freshman took over one of the cornerback spots, led the country in passes defended this year, which is pass breakups plus interceptions. 20 of them, was defensive rookie of the year in the ACC. Said just one of those calm guys who got it from day one.
Pass complete for Clark. Arcito Clark, who had the touchdown reception on the last drive. Close to a first down.
Well, Mississippi State starting to get into a little bit of groove offensively. This a very nice throw by Ralph. Good time, good accuracy. It does seem like Mississippi State now starting to get into a little bit of a flow that they didn't have in the first quarter.
8-yard gain on the play. 7.5 to go in the first half. Bulldogs leading by 6. Ralph tosses it to Ballard. And Ballard picks up a first down to the 20-yard line. Tackled by Josh Bush, a 10-yard gain.
Ralph just a little bit slow getting up. The pitch was forced by Kyle Wilbur. Watch 97. Gets a good shot into the midsection. And Ralph was a little slow getting up. Remember, Tyler Russell with that MCL sprain in his left knee. They don't want to play him if they don't have to. And if he doesn't go, we'll be seeing a lot of the Wildcat with Bumpus.
Ralph runs it. This next play looked to be all right that time. Brought it down at the 18-yard line. Tackled by Kyle Wilbur.
And as a senior, I don't think you're coming off the field unless you're really hurt.
What do you remember about playing in your last bowl game, Ed?
I remember winning a national championship in the Rose Bowl. I couldn't have drawn it up any better. Went to 4 bowls when I was in college. The last 2 were Rose Bowls. Just a great experience.
Chad Bumpus now in for the aforementioned Wildcat formation. Keeps it. Picks up about 2. Chad Bumpus, a dynamic receiver, and they'll move him around and see use him in that formation. Ralph comes back in. Gave him a little bit of a breather. 3rd down and 6. What do you think here, Ed? 11th play of the drive.
Ralph's been running awfully well. They've been gaining yardage when he has the ball in his hand. So I think maybe a read option here. Read that backside defensive end and maybe keep it.
Ralph throws it. Pass incomplete. Intended for Ballard. And it's 4th down and 6 coming up. Good heat up front by Haynes and A.J. Marshall. Forced that high throw.
Nice job with containment by Haynes. That's a sprint out. It's not a bootleg. It's where the quarterback goes with the motion of the offensive line and the play fake. And Haynes, as you mentioned, nice job keeping contained. There's nothing there for Ralph to do. He had to throw it before he wanted to.
Derek DePasquale into attempt a field goal from 33 yards away. He's 11 of 17 on the season. And off the yellow shoes of DePasquale. And Cox, the guy that helped turn the half around for Mississippi State. Let's go down to Sam.
Coach showed some confidence in your passing game right there. What went into that decision?
We're looking at I was worried we'd have a shot for 2 plays, and we did. You know, we would have 1 second if we didn't get it to try to try the field goal right there, but 3 turnovers in the first half. That's really bad football, and we got a lot of cleanup here at halftime.
How do you assess your line play? Obviously a battle up front.
You know, I mean, we're inconsistent. We're giving up too much pressure in the pass game right there, and little inconsistent blocking. But, you know, to go in with a halftime lead is good. We get the ball here to start the second half. Or, I'm sorry, we got kicked there to start the second half, but we got to go play defense. I'm just disappointed. 3 turnovers in the half is, you know, we're -3 in turnover ratio right now. You're not going to win many games doing that.
Coach, you're still in the first half, and you're already losing your voice. You going to be all right?
Yeah, you know, we haven't played in a while right now, so it's still getting used to game mode, the voice right now.
I'll let you get in there. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Guys.
Coach Mullen trying to get his voice back in and up to game speed. A couple of fumbles and an interception, but Mississippi State with the lead. Let's head back to the studio for the H&R Block Studio halftime report with Reese Davis, whose voice is always at full speed. And welcome back, everyone, to Nashville and the Franklin American Mortgage Music City Bowl, the 14th edition, featuring Mississippi State against Wake Forest, the first meeting all time between these two teams, the Bulldog Nation leading by 9. Mark Jones along with Ed Cunningham. Samantha Steele down in the field. She'll be joining us in just a few moments. Well, Dan Mullen, the head coach of Mississippi State, said it's a small senior class that he has, but the young guys have stepped up and made big plays throughout the years. But in the first half of this game, Ed, it's been the seniors that have made the big plays for them.
Chris Relf obviously getting the start over Tyler Russell, playing pretty well at the end there. Worried a little bit about the time management, but they got down and had a shot. But it's really been the first half was good and bad for Mississippi State. We'll start with the good, the 16 unanswered points. Chris Relf, of course, with the 57 rush yards, got going a little bit. But the bad, of course, the 3 turnovers, 0 touchdowns in the red zone, and that missed extra point. Which you have to look at, you say, okay, only 7 points off turnovers for Wake Forest. However, I think you can say 10 there because that was a chip shot field goal if they kick the field goal instead of play that, or if they have that 1 second left and it was an incomplete pass.
See if Wake Forest can turn that into a little momentum coming out here in the third quarter. They'll receive the opening kick. Let's go downstairs to Sam Steele.
I talked to Jim Grobe, calm as usual, obviously upset about the big plays they gave up and the blocked field goal, but he said Tanner Price is getting a lot of time to throw. He's happy with the protection that's there because of the offensive line. He said the big issue is they need to take advantage of the coverages they're seeing. He said we're getting the coverage that we want. We just got to have some patience and get the ball to our receivers.
Well, the offensive line has played very well. I think it started to change a little bit there in the second quarter. But Mississippi State, defensively, they play back. They don't want balls going over their head. So working the underneath, we've seen Givens on those drags. And I would expect that we're going to see the same thing. If they're getting the coverage they expected, and that's the routes they had drawn up coming into the game, don't need much change for Wake Forest offensively.
So is Jackson. Well, Jackson seemingly taking it away from his blocking and his coverage, but a nice return out beyond the 35-yard line. See what Price can get done here on the first series. Come with some pressure. And a nice catch after the juggle by Campanaro. Still on his feet and all the way down to the 32.
And that's exactly what Jim Grobe was telling Samantha. They're getting the protection they want. They're getting the coverage that they expected. And so right away, Steve Lebowski, the offensive coordinator, dials up a layered route. Givens was over the top. Campanaro, when they are able to stretch the field with both Dembry and Givens, Campanero's the guy who's had a huge season underneath those long routes.
Longest play of the day for Wake Forest on that reception. First and 10 after the 32-yard gain. Here's the reverse. Givens looking for a block. Cuts it back up inside, and a nice gain. Probably picked up 5 or 6. Second down, about 4 to go.
And there's an interesting game in the upper left-hand corner. Oklahoma is a huge favorite in that game. Iowa suspended their best running back. But that looks to me like one of those games where one team may want to be there, Iowa, and with Oklahoma limping home and so bad offensively at the end of the season after they lost Ryan Broyles, I wouldn't be so sure about that.
Fourth of 4 games coming up right after this one. Pendergast stopped up short of the first down and short of the line of scrimmage. Fletcher Cox once again, the imposing junior in the middle. No gain on the play. Led the team with 4 sacks this year.
A 3-man line, 94 lined up on the tight end. Number 80, Andrew Parker. That's going to be a mismatch every single time.
Third and 5. Price, and that's a face mask. Lennon all over the field. 4 flags. Josh Boyd made the tackle, and you know they may have had him sacked regardless.
Mask. Defense, number 97. Half the distance to the goal line. Automatic. First down.
That's the big one.
Yeah, a huge penalty. It would have been 4th and about 6. Or even, no, sorry, it'd have been about 4th and 9 had this been a sack and not a penalty. And now inside the 15-yard line with a 1st and 10.
You take a shot here on first down to Givens?
Why not? Looks like you had solo coverage down here.
Price under some heat. Wanted to pass it, but sacked back at the 14 by Sean Ferguson, the senior out of Miami, Florida, 3-year starter.
Ferguson just absolutely blowing up the right guard, number 75, Michael Hogue. And if Ferguson doesn't get there, Givens was running free on that shallow crossing route that we've seen, but Ferguson, good physical play there by the senior.
2nd and 11. Price, Givens isolated, made a move in space and gets down to about the 5-yard line. And looks like he picked up the first down. He was working on Wade Bonner. Had him isolated on the backside here, Ed.
And Mississippi State loves the corner blitz. We saw that earlier. They did it again. And when you do that, Wade Bonner, the safety, he's got to get over there quicker. But here's the problem. You hear about people disguising their coverage. Well, if Bonner starts coming over too soon, then the quarterback knows there's a corner blitz coming there. So you get stuck in between. 4 down, 3 down, pressure, a bunch of different zones. And they don't make mental errors. Very well coached flow.
That defense under duress right here. 1st and goal. Pendergrass straight ahead. Down to about the 1-foot line. Picked up 3. Let's see where they spot it. It'll be 2nd down and goal.
Nice blocking at the point of attack again for Wake Forest.
He stretched the ball over, but he was down clearly. 2nd and goal coming up.
I don't think you want to mess around too much. You're at 2nd and goal inside the 1. To me, if you start going sideways, you look at a lost yardage play.
Rice hands it off to the fullback, and it's a touchdown. Bohannon. Well, that undersized, well, the matchup pretty good on the trenches there. Right now, the offensive line doing the job to score the touchdown. Bohannon with his 2nd rushing touchdown of the season. Pretty impressive opening drive that time of the 3rd quarter for Wake.
That opening throw by Tanner Price was exactly what Jim Grove sounded like when he was talking at halftime to Samantha what he wanted to do, and that got them going.
The extra point good. And remember, Mississippi State missed an extra point. It'll be a 3-point game. 7 plays, 64 yards. They rolled up their sleeves and said, hey, you can play in the SEC, but we can too in the ACC.
Found themselves a pretty good coach. James Franklin.
Wake Forest knows all about the Goodyear. Yeah, they got clobbered by the Commodores in the last meeting of the regular season. Lewis on the return. This time brought down at about the 27-yard line.
starting to be able to play.
Ralph threw an interception the last time he touched the ball. This time he's brought down at about the 32. Might have gained a yard on the play. It'll be second down, about 9 to go. There's a look at his first half numbers. Not spectacular, not flashy, but 7-11 efficient, right?
And you remember talking to coaches how far he had to come. Those efficient numbers are exactly what this offense is built for.
Ballard on the move. And Ballard into Wake Forest territory and a first down at the 46-yard line.
And Ralph gets, and he's shaking that right arm. Remember earlier we saw him on this option get popped, and this is the exact same guy on the exact same play, Kyle Wilbur. Now, watch at the end of this play, the fans wanted a horse collar. Now, that is not a horse collar. When Kyle Quarles comes in, you can grab it as long as you don't yank the player down immediately in the action of the play. It's not a horse collar.
Ballard again tries that left side again over the left tackle. James Carman picks up about 4 on the play.
But that option was exactly what Jim Grove was worried about. Because of their undersized defensive line, he said that Mississippi State can run right at us. Ballard is a good between the tackles runner, but it's the option that puts you on your heels, and now you're catching blocks instead of attacking.
Well, for the play fake, looking downfield, heaves it. Intercepted after being juggled by 2 Mississippi State players. And the Demon Deacs, Merrill Noel, gets the interception. The second one of the night.
Well, Arcito Clark did a nice job of coming off his route to make a play on the ball by Ralph. But unfortunately, Chris Smith, as he comes over, Clark does a nice job, just thrown a little too far to the inside, but Chris Smith keeps that ball alive. And there's that true freshman. Just a great move by Clark. Just not a perfectly thrown ball. Not terribly thrown, but just not a perfectly thrown ball. And because Smith was finishing his route, keeps that ball alive.
Under 2 minutes to go in the third. Wake Forest has scored the only points of this period. And Price got swallowed. And I mean swallowed back at the 32-yard line. Take your pick. Fletcher Cox, one of the guys to get there along with Burgess and Ferguson.
Ferguson having himself a nice ball game.
That sure is. 3-year starter out of Miami, Florida. Playing in his second consecutive bowl game.
This doesn't even look like the same defensive line that was here in the first quarter. I'm not so sure they weren't abducted by aliens and then they got brought back when Cox blocked that field goal.
2nd and 16. Price completes it to Campanero. Campanero is tackled and a flag in the area. Brought down at about the 37. Let's see what this flag is about. They're going to say there was a face mask?
Personal foul. Face mask. Defense. Number 22. 15-yard penalty. Automatic.
Matthew Wells got just enough.
Yeah,
more than enough if it's 15.
Yeah, second huge face mask penalty. This would have been third and a long way. And it's the headgear. You know, it's right on the line. They got rid of the 5-yard incidental face mask. Yeah. Again, right on the line, but when that helmet turns, the officials are going to call it. So right on the line, it's a safety issue. Officials are taught err on the side of safety. So when Camaro's head turns slightly, they threw the flag.
First and 10, they go straight ahead with Brandon Pendergrass.
Not saying I agree with it 100%, but that's why the flag was thrown.
I don't think Dan Mullen agreed with that call.
I'm right on the fence with this one. It's a huge penalty. The only reason I would say maybe you keep it in your pocket is you're looking at 3rd and long for Wake Forest. The defense has done what they're supposed to do, and that looks like incidental. But again, the head just turned slightly, and officials it's drilled in their head to err on the side of player safety.
Flag down. Price throws it into the ground in the vicinity of Pendergrass.
And there you saw the athleticism
That's against Wake Forest.
of Fletcher Cox. Oh, no cowbells.
Oh, that's
Hear that?
right. For the referees, but not when Wake Forest is
Illegal
about to snap.
formation. Offense, 5-man lineup in the backfield. That penalty is declined. Third down. That is the end of the third quarter.
45 minutes in the books. Mississippi State leading 16-14. Looking for their 5th consecutive bowl win. 15 minutes to go when we come back. Welcome back, everyone, to Nashville and the Franklin American Mortgage Music City Bowl under the lights at LP Field. I'm Mark Jones along with Ed Cunningham, Samantha Steele down on the sidelines. Wake Forest playing in its first bowl game in 3 years, trying to make a comeback here. And a blitz coming by the Bulldogs, and they get to the quarterback, Tanner Price. Fourth down coming up, they'll punt.
Steve Lebowski talked about the corner blitz. Watch right to the inside. Bloomfield comes, and just his quickness is just absolutely too much for the right tackle, Dennis Godfrey. If you can get a guy that small, you just have, against a man that big, you've got to make sure, and that's coaching. Don't run right into that guy. Make a quick move. What an excellent call by Chris Wilson, the defensive coordinator, and great execution by Broomfield.
Wolfbeck with a line drive that bounces at the 24. Bumpus fields it. He called for a fair catch, and that's why the official blew it dead. Mississippi State by a pair with possession. And let's take a look at the last play on the punt return. Bumpus, what did he do here? We've got a clarification.
Well, the fair catch signal is a hand above the shoulder that waves at least once. That clearly was not the case here. Now, the net result, I don't think makes much of a difference. There was 3 Wake Forest players standing right there after Bumpus caught the ball. So I'm not sure that even if you would have let that play go, how much more yardage you would have gained.
Chris Smith on the reception picks up 6 on the play. Coming up next, the 4th of 4. Iowa against Oklahoma in the Inside Bowl. Coming up next right here at the conclusion of this one between Mississippi State and Wake Forest. Mississippi State looking for its 5th consecutive bowl win. Ballard puts his hat down and gets enough for the first down. All right, Reese. Back here, first down and 10. The low snap. Well, feels it well, hands it off to Ballard. Good move. Vic Ballard. Put in the Jets. Touchdown. Tell you what, Wake Forest might be sleeping on his acceleration a little bit, because he showed some great burst and speed once he cleared the pile.
And it looked to me like Okoro maybe had a bit of an angle on him, and he stepped away from it.
Ballard with another long run.
And one thing to remember when you're looking at a running back is you run slower with a ball in your arm than a defender who can use both his arms. This guy's faster than I think Wake Forest expected.
Mississippi State now leading by 9 points. Vic Ballard tells anyone who's willing to listen, once I snap that head back in open field, it's over.
Well, watch Ballard when he gets into the open. And the backside corner, Okoro, right here, he's got the angle. He's ahead of the runner. And I think he misjudges the speed of Ballard. You could see right there, Ballard kicked it in. And even at the end here, he's stepping away from number 6. And Todd McShay, one of our draft analysts, has him projected as a 4th rounder. And here's a guy who nobody wanted out of high school. Nobody except Troy and Mississippi State wanted out of junior college. And I think when NFL scouts put in the tape and they see plays like that about the speed on the field, not necessarily on the clock, I think the stock may go up even a little bit more.
Here's Harris on the kickoff return for Wake Forest. And what does it say, Ed, about the player development component at Mississippi State to take a player that nobody was willing to offer a scholarship, and now he's looking at making some dollars at the next level?
And, you know, it's funny talking about that development. When Les Kenning went to Dan Mullen and said, hey, I want to recruit this guy, he said, well, who else is recruiting him? He said, Troy. They said, okay, Troy's a good program, but nobody else in the SEC wants him. And they said, no. He said, well, why do we want him? Well, his coach said he's a hard worker and he's a good guy to have around. And they literally recruited him as a stopgap. And all the guy has done is work harder and harder. And because of the program Dan Mullen running and the offense they run, he's made himself into a draftable NFL player.
Worked out pretty well for him. That pass complete to Andrew Parker, the tight end.
And here's the other thing that's going to help this young man. Because of his attitude and how he works, if you're a third, fourth, fifth rounder, you have to play special teams. If you're a running back, a linebacker, a defensive back, wide receiver in the NFL, because the rosters only have to carry 45 guys, you know he's going to go out and cover punts with the best of them, block on kickoff returns. So that's a guy, because of his attitude and because he's showing some ability, I think he's got a chance to make a roster next year.
Wrapping up a good career here at Mississippi State tonight. Price under duress delivers a strike complete and a tackle right at the sideline, and enough for the first down. Chris Givens picks up 6 on the play, and they move the sticks. Wake Forest has got to get busy here, down by 9 points.
Yeah, I feel like they need to have a little more oomph right now. You're down 2 scores. So I think they need to speed it up just a touch.
Pendergast puts his hat down, picks up about 4 on the play. Brandon May making the stop. When you talk about, Ed, going after one of the safeties, when you're scheming for that, how do you do it?
Post route, you do something where you flood that side of the field. You run a couple of verticals, so he has to make a choice. A veteran player will know you've got to go with the deepest guy, and you try to deke a younger player to see if he'll bite on a play underneath.
Come underneath to Campanero, who gets drilled just a little bit short of the first down. It'll be 3rd down and about 1 to go. Cameron Lawrence, the leading tackler on the team, makes the stop. He took a lick. 3rd and short. And not enough for the first down. Sean Ferguson's made some big plays, makes one there on Pendergast. Do you go for it here?
Yes, I think if you punt this away, I doubt you're going to get help from Mississippi State throwing the ball again if they get it back. Pretty good effort by Pendergast, but there's just, you don't have a choice here if you Wake Forest. You have to go for it. And I don't think you mess around. Pendergast straight ahead. I don't think you'd want to be in the shotgun here. I feel like this is a straight ahead run.
4th and 1. A defining point of the game. They get the first down and then some. Pendergast out to the 46-yard line. A 9-yard gain, and they hold on to the ball as we approach 5 minutes to go. They need a couple of scores.
Joe Looney, the left guard, nice job on a pull. Doesn't need to get much of a block. Linebacker falling down, but got to the edge.
Looked like Price was trying to go up top. Instead is forced to throw it out of bounds. He got outside of the pocket. Nobody close that time, but good pressure once again by Ferguson. He had company in Josh Boyd.
Well, and this was trying to go after the safety, Hughes, and he didn't bite on it. It was a fake screen, and they were trying to get Dembry by him. Excellent job by the freshman. That was Labotsky trying to go after the young guy, and he was having none of it.
Pass complete. First down into Mississippi State territory to Pendergast. Picks up 7 on the play. They continue to move the chains.
Well, you'd expect that Jay Hughes, the safety who had to come in, knows what he's doing. You know who coaches him? His dad. I'm sure he's listening. That was great technique there because they were going after it.
Little receiver screen, looking for a flag. And Givens protesting with the official. Damian Anderson breaks it up.
It's not pass interference if the ball is thrown behind the line of scrimmage. The defender is allowed, well, you could have maybe called defensive holding, but because the ball's thrown behind the line of scrimmage, there is no pass interference.
Looking at a 4th down again. Down 2 scores, they have to convert. And they do. To the clutch receiver, Campanero. All the way down to the 20. He was working against Broomfield. A 26-yard pickup and a huge first down.
If you can get protection, it is almost impossible to cover those long crossing routes. It's just too far for a guy to chase a wide receiver.
Price. Oh, his receiver slipped out there. Givens would have made the catch and lost his footing.
Now here's where Wake Forest, and Givens gets up a little gimpy. But here is where Wake Forest doesn't want to waste too much time. You're down 9, so you need a touchdown and a field goal. I know it's only 2nd and 10, but you've got to start thinking about that 4:16 left on the clock. Don't waste too much time, and it's not a loss to send out your field goal unit because you need the 3 anyway.
It's underneath again. Givens holds on this time. But it's brought down right around the line of scrimmage by Jonathan Banks. Sets up a 3rd down and long.
Really impressed with Banks, but I think Givens hurt himself when he slipped and fell on that last one. What a huge loss this will be.
He's holding his, or favoring his left leg. Here's how it happened on the previous play. Looked like he slipped coming out of his cut, Ed.
Didn't see him twist anything. I wonder if maybe he's cramping a bit. And Chris Ralph was thinking in his head, we need more cowbell.
They're supposed to be keeping it quiet now, right? 3rd and 10. Price under heat. And he fumbled it, but was he down? They're going to whistle him down first. They're going to say that his knee touched and that he was down, but Brandon May, the Clemson transfer, made a great move off the edge.
And it was the noise that got it. Watch the left tackle just a little bit late out of his stance. And Brandon May had gotten a jump on the snap. And there's those cowbells. By rule, they're not supposed to be rattling them while the ball is set for play. But we knew coming in that it was going to be difficult for them to enforce that rule in a neutral site.
Well, they're going to take the field goal, Ed. They're going to go for the field goal with 3:24 to go. Try and make this a 6-point game.
There's big number 94 right there. Remember, he had the block earlier.
That's Fletcher Cox. Newman bounces it, and good. A game of inches, they say. Was it ever on that play? Jimmy Newman squeaks it over in a literal sense.
Excellent job by Wake Forest up front. Great protection.
Oh, maybe it did. My bad. My bad. It looked like from my angle that it bounced through. It hit the back part.
It sure did.
It went way through. My bad.
Sorry, Jimmy.
Yeah.
It had plenty of leg. It just looked from that angle.
It looked like it hit the crossbar.
Sure, yeah.
Look at that. 3:27 to go. Wake Forest with 2 timeouts. Mississippi State up by 6. 3 timeouts remaining.
Boy, that's an awful lot of space in the middle there to do like a dribble kick for an onside.
Squib it down. Recovered by the Bulldogs. And that's Perkins. Ralph hands it off on 1st down. Not much space for Perkins. Maybe got a yard on the play. Hey, folks, just a reminder, for more coverage at the end of this game, log on to ESPN3 for the trophy presentation here in Nashville, Tennessee at the Franklin American Mortgage Music City Bowl. Time out on the field, and this time I want to acknowledge our producer, Kim Belton, who was unable to join us tonight. At home, taking care of family. So right now, Dan Mullen's team trying to write a perfect ending to this song.
No passes. If I am Mississippi State, I'm making Wake use that last timeout.
Well, they keep it on the ground. And Ballard passively goes down. Boy, you're giving it back to them maybe a little too early here.
Well,
3rd and long coming up.
I don't think Mississippi State should or will throw it here, but you have everyone. There are 9 guys around the line of scrimmage right now for Wake Forest.
They hand it off to Ballard. And he's brought down after a gain of about 2. So with 3:04 to go, the clock still running. Wake Forest out of timeouts. Down by 1 score.
And remember, Wake Forest came after a punt and almost got it in the 3rd quarter.
Did you take a gamble and maybe go for it here, or you just try and set up a return? Mississippi State was only able to burn 1:01 on that last drive. Here's the punt. Campanaro calls for the fair catch, and a great punt back at the 27, 45 yards. Nothing on the return. Let's go back. All right, Reese, back here. You know, for every young quarterback, there's always a defining point, a tipping point in their careers, and this might be it tonight for the sophomore Tanner Price, a true sophomore, still on the learning curve, but ascending it with a completion there. Out to the 31-yard line to number 80, Andrew Parker.
And Wake Forest has to go. They had to use the timeouts to stop Mississippi State. The clock while Mississippi State had the ball offensively.
Only a touchdown will do for Wake Forest. Incomplete through the hands of Davis, who should have caught that.
And I'm not sure that that's not a good thing that he dropped that. I'm not sure if he gets beyond the sticks and the clock would have continued to burn.
Stops the clock with 1:51 to go.
Mississippi State right now doing a great job of not letting anybody run over the top. So Price having to look underneath. I think they need to start looking at the sideline.
They come with a blitz, and he overshoots him again. Davis didn't really have much chance. And right now, you're looking at a quarterback that might be a little bit rattled.
He is, and I think Chris Wilson is going to dial up a blitz. So maybe a screen here. As crazy as that sounds, I think you're going to see pressure.
4th down. Pass is incomplete. And Mississippi State takes over on downs. That was not a Kodak moment for quarterback Tanner Price.
Just in the second half, Tanner Price just never looked quite comfortable, even when he had a pocket. There is a pocket there. He just short arms that a touch to Terrence Davis.
Well, interesting. You surprised they didn't go to Chris Gibbons a little bit more? You think the injury factored into that?
You know, when he got up from that last one, he did not look 100%.
And Wake Forest without a timeout remaining. Might be enough time here for Mississippi State to just burn it out.
Yep. Best formation in all of football if you're the winning team.
And a flag thrown. That's kind of how the night started for the Bulldogs, didn't it? Even in the victory formation, things not quite going smoothly that time.
Illegal shift. Offense. 5-yard penalty. Remains 1st down.
Well, time now for tonight's Capital One Player of the Game, and it's going to go to Vic Ballard. The career high 180 rushing yards, a couple of touchdowns, a run of 60 and 72 yards. Man, what a great way to go out if you're a senior, a guy who was lightly recruited coming out of high school and junior college. Only Troy was offering. And Mississippi State certainly finding a diamond in the rough here in Music City. Hitting the right chord and right tune with number 28.
The one thing that even I was a little surprised was his open field speed. I knew he was a good inside the tackle runner, but that run right there, when the backside corner had the angle and he outran him, was surprising to me. And this young man better be ready to be poked and prodded like he's never been poked and prodded before, as he gets to go to all-star games, to the NFL Combine, especially for running backs. They will pull on every joint to make sure it's firm. And again, I think it's a guy who's going to bring a lot to a team with his work ethic potentially special teams. But to look forward for Dan Mullen, he had 8 players, underclassmen, put in paperwork for the NFL to see what their draft status was. He said, if we get all of those guys back, we're going to be awfully good. If we don't, we may look a lot like we did this year, where we're very young, inexperienced at some key places. And, you know, frankly, this was a team early in the year that was maybe a little overrated. Every game they lost was to a top 25 team.
It was his third season. He knew it would be a challenging season. And he gets the celebratory Gatorade shower. Says it was pretty much a success that they just made it to a bowl game. Mississippi State is going to improve to 7-6. Wake Forest will fall to 6-7.
A huge win last year over Michigan. Complete blowout for Mississippi State. 2 wins in a row for Dan Mullen. Pretty good start to a career. First 3 years.
Partner, want to be the first to wish you a Happy New Year, you and the rest of the crew. Kim Belton, Jimmy Platt, our producer and director. Scott filling in today, and our entire crew. Thanks for the help all year. It's been a great season, folks. Brett Cunningham and the rest of the crew, Samantha Steele, saying so long from Nashville. I'm Mark Jones. Right now, let's send you to Tempe, Arizona. Sean McDonough, Matt Millen, and Heather Cox.